Good morning, everybody, and welcome. This is Michael Losier, and welcome to the daily Law of Attraction Inspirational Wake-Up Call. You are about to experience a new 10-session series, this being class 1 of 10, and they're special because they have special people on them, just like you and me, and, of course, the lovely and talented Linda Story, who you're all going to get to know really well over the next 10 classes. So absolutely be taking notes and coming back to listen to this over and over and over again. So I'm glad that you're here, and you might not know it yet, but you're going to be glad you're here too. Would that be okay if that happened at the end of the call?
Yes.
Yes, very good. Okay, so there is a purpose to these calls that I've been doing. A, it helps me start my vibration off already higher than it was before I did the call. How selfish of me to want to do that 10 times, 30 times. But its real purpose is to inspire you and uplift you and educate you, and most importantly, leave you with a higher vibration than when you came in. That would be okay if that happened too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And throughout the day today, and as you're listening to the recordings, you might want to tap into what you learned today and see how it applies to your life and so on, just to make sure they integrate the message. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about Linda Story. I've known Linda Story from as soon as I started my personal development journey. That was probably in the early 1990s, and she always had things that I wanted to learn about. So we'd have a conversation. I'd say, oh, I love how you said that. And she would say, oh, that's NLP. And every time she did something, I'd want to model it. So I became good friends with Linda Story, not just for that reason, but we ended up being mentors and teachers to each other. So she's the one that introduced me to NLP and then encouraged me to take the training, and I did, and supported me with that. And then, I always said I had the best NLP training, because after I took the training, that's when I really learned it. Because NLP is sometimes, NLP has lots of complicated words. And I would say, presupposition, what does that mean? And Linda would look at me and she'd say, okay, here's what real people would say. It means to presuppose something. Oh, okay. So I learned all the hard words in the NLP training. And then Linda Story gave me the Linda Story. You can make it easier to understand version. I call her the queen of reframing. I call her the queen of future pacing. She does everything so well. She's my favorite NLP person. She also got me into EFT, which helped me reduce like 10 food groups from my life. But I do remember the first time we did EFT, and I'm sure you remember it, Linda. We were in the park. It was on my lunch hour when I was working for the government. I asked her to go for a walk with me, and so we sat on the bench and we tapped away guilt. How handy is that to get rid of guilt? So right in the park, I didn't know what she was doing. She was tapping and touching and all that other stuff, and I never had it again. So it was awesome. Here's my point in telling you all this: is she's really, really talented. I'm really excited for her to be here. And she, for her website, it's Lindarella, just like the word Cinderella. It's LindarellaCoaching.com, and you can find out more about Linda. And she's going to be your new best friend, too, this week. So, Linda, I want to welcome you to the call and just let you know that this group that's listening and the group that's on here are really well-versed in Law of Attraction. They've heard me talk about it at least 30 times over and over and over again. So I'm not going to give the big spiel about what Law of Attraction is, but just to remind people that even though these are NLP courses, the reason why we're including them in this package is because it ties so closely to Law of Attraction. NLP stands for Neuro-linguistic programming. The letter L is linguistics. Boy, aren't words really important with Law of Attraction? Now, for some of you that have read my book and you've read other writers on the same subject, a lot of people say, wow, yours makes so much sense. Well, I used so many NLP techniques when I was writing my book. In particular, I focused on communication styles. Now, for those of you that have my book, some of you say, oh, I like that it has pictures, and I like that it has forms filled out and empty forms and white space, and I love that it has a review at the end. And what I'm doing, I'm really appeasing all the different styles. And, of course, then there's people that said, oh, your book is too small, or some people say it's just the right size. It's so funny, people's different opinions. So when I wrote it, I had to really pay attention to the NLP communication styles. That means how people learn and how people process information. So for the next 2 days, Linda Story is going to take 2 of those communication styles, and ideally you'd find out which one you are before the class. If you haven't done that, you can always go to Linda's website, which is LindarellaCoaching.com. And on the left-hand side, there's a tab that says Assessment, And on that tab, you can quickly online find out your communication style, even if you think you already know what it might be. And during this program, you say, oh, that's me, she's talking about me. And she might also talk about one of the challenges of being you, which, of course, would be something you'd want to learn. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so sometimes she stings a bit, but maybe not to you, but she stings me once in a while. That, oh, that's one of the challenges of the visuals, and that's what I am. So I want to welcome Linda. And Linda, this is my friends, and this is my friend Linda.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Michael. You are on a roll today.
Yeah.
I love that. Hi, everyone. I'm really, really pleased to be here. And I'm going to talk about NLP, and it can be a very, very broad subject. And as Michael said, I always like to simplify things. So just for those of you who might not know what NLP means, I'll just do it very quickly. The N represents neuro, so it's neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro refers to our nervous system, and that could be including the brain in our thinking process. The linguistic refers to language and the process of how we form meaning to the words that we're hearing and speaking. And then the programming part refers to the behaving to bring out a particular outcome. So really, you could just think of NLP as thinking, speaking, and behaving. It can be that simple. And I love the connection between and the integration of NLP to law of attraction. And we're going to talk more in the next few days about reframing, future pacing, something called installing. They all help make our desire statements and our affirmations so much more meaningful when we're speaking in our own particular communication style. So words have power, and words can either create understanding, clarity, and healing, or they can bring about confusion, doubt, and contrast. So we all know that it's the feeling behind the words that's important. It's not necessarily the word, but it's the feeling, and that the universe is responding to the feeling rather than the actual word itself. So by us knowing how to speak to other people in their communication style, they're picking up a very different sense or feeling from the words that we're saying because it really relates to them. So today we're going to talk about words that bring about the best feeling state to the visual and auditory style. So there are 4 styles: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, auditory, digital. And tomorrow I'll do kinesthetic and auditory digital.
Linda, let's do a quick check to find out how many people scores brought them to be a visual at the top. Mine, I'm visual first. In other words, that's my highest number. Who else is like that?
I am. Carrie with the K.
Okay, Carrie with the K. Good. Anybody else? Okay.
So we've got 2.
Yeah.
Okay. And who on the call has an auditory style? Came up with the highest score being auditory.
Joy. Sarah.
Sorry, what was the name?
Sarah, I came up with a combination of auditory and visual equally divided.
Okay.
Yeah, that too.
And who is that?
Joy from Oregon.
Joy and Margot both have auditory. Good. Anybody else, Eric?
And
Yeah, Eric.
Eric. Good.
And auditory?
And, wow, this is a big group, isn't it?
This is Maria. I also came up with auditory and a bunch of the others, too. I got a real big mix of all of them.
And what was your name?
Maria, and I scored the highest on the auditory then.
Okay, great. Wow, we've got a lot of auditory.
I know, that's odd. Usually they're the least represented group. But don't they love that?
Well, Michael, in my trainings lately, I've had lots of auditory. So
oh, yeah?
It's really been a lot of fun. And Michael and I are both auditory second, so we're pretty high auditory as well. Okay, so today we're talking about Terry and Michael and Sarah and Margot and all that. And so my plan is for each style, for visual, I'm going to give you a few key words, a few stories, and some just 3 law of attraction scripts for that style. So some of the key words for visual are the obvious ones: see, look, and then we can add in focus,
okay, so
visualize.
We're writing this down, right? So maybe draw a line down the middle of the page. On the left-hand side, do visual, and the right-hand side, do auditory. Would that help?
Yes. Yeah, I think that would help.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got see, and look and focus and visualize. Even though Michael said one day, I can't visualize. He really can.
Imagine.
Gaze is another one.
Imagine that's a good one.
Yeah, imagine.
Imagine.
Put a frame around
Clarity.
it.
Yeah, put a frame around that.
Like
Clarity.
Clarity.
And watch.
Watch.
I like to watch things.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And
Or dream.
so those are some, pardon me?
Or daydream. Or
Daydream. That's right.
Get a picture.
Observe.
Okay, lots of fun ones for visual.
Observe.
Observe.
Observe, yeah.
Observe. Yeah, you can just continue, making a really delicious list, especially if you are visual. You know the words that really capture your attention, that raise your vibration.
This might be a good point time, Linda, to tell them if the letter V is last for you in order, you probably never use these words, and it's probably even uncomfortable for you to say, let's take a look at that. Even a word with even a sentence with any of those words can sometimes feel uncomfortable if it's your last processing style. Does that make sense for anybody on the line?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I never say get a picture of that. Good.
Yeah.
Fun words for visuals. Go ahead,
But
Linda.
even if it is your last style, but you know somebody, let's just say somebody in your life that's a really key person and really important to you, and they're visual, you will want to learn how to speak their language.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like in an office setting, for example, one person goes over to another, and if they were to say to a visual, I can't get a handle on this project, can you help me feel my way through so I am more comfortable? They will just look at you like deer in headlights, just done. But if you went over and said, I really can't get a picture of what's going on here. Can you take a look at this and help me see what I might be missing? So it's exactly the same thing. You've got a problem. You're wanting them to come in and help you and support you with figuring it out. But the way you say it can make all the difference in the world.
Good. We have 1 minute, Linda.
Okay.
I'm kidding. We have more than 1 minute, but we have like 3 more minutes. We're going to be a little bit over, but this is important. Tomorrow we won't do a big introduction. We'll just go right into the message. So
and I'll just give you a couple of visual stories here. There's a friend that I have, Stephanie. She's a flight attendant, and she said when she was flying for the airline, she has a photographic memory, and she can take 30 lunch or dinner orders without writing any of them down. And she had the picture of what they ordered, and she could match it up to what they looked like. So, and when Michael and I, just another short little story, Michael and I used to talk on the phone, and his style used to be very visual. He was so done with the conversation and ready to hang up, and he would just say, see you later. And then he realized that I was left feeling incomplete. So now, sometimes when he senses that, he'll just say, you feel complete before we hang up? And then I'll say whether I do or not. So that's very visual, moving very quickly. And
I think last week I called you back to find out if I ended it softly enough. Did I end that too abruptly? I can't tell.
Yeah, it was abrupt, and I was complete, so we were fine.
Yeah.
So here's 3 short little scripts for visuals relating to law of attraction. And, you can get really creative and make them up in any way. But it would be along the lines of, one would be, I see myself as confident. I see myself as worthy of success today and always. I love knowing. It's easy for me to manifest my vision. And the universe is lining things up for me. And showing them to me on a daily basis.
Oh, that's beautiful. Visuals love that
so that's
one.
Where we get to have that evidence.
Well, I use the word lining up to people, and some people don't know what I mean. But I mean, like, how you put ducks in a row, you'd line them up. In other words, everything's in order. So when I say I'm lining up my energy, I physically see that it's a straight line to line it up. But that doesn't mean that to everybody, I've found out. I don't know what you mean lining it up.
Yeah.
So I use different words now in addition to lining it up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay. So that was pretty much, I could go into some of the challenges for the visual. But what?
Yeah, we don't have time, Linda. Sorry, it's like 20
No, I know
after.
we don't.
What about the auditory?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to do auditory now. Yeah.
We're moving there right now, okay? So some of the keywords for auditory are hear, sound, resonate, harmony, listen, tell, ask, and there's lots more. But if you start putting some of those in sentences speaking to someone that's auditory, you'll catch their attention. And I just want to give you a little story about what happened to a friend of mine and her husband. And John is auditory and Nicole is kinesthetic. They were having a conversation. And Nicole would suggest something. John would say, that sounds like a good idea. Because auditory people are fabulous with ideas. Nicole would take that statement as an agreement or a yes, and then she'd make plans to go ahead and do something. Later on, he'd have to explain to her that when he says it sounds like a good idea, that does not mean yes. It simply means it's a good idea, and then they need to have further conversation. So that was really, really meaningful to them in their marriage and cleared up huge misunderstandings. I have an auditory. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, my auditory friends, and I know that they know that I know who that they are. Whenever they say that sounds like a good idea, I'm the first one to say, so does that mean we're doing that or we're not doing that? So I don't because I understand that phrase could mean different things. I'm always double checking.
Yeah.
And I say, no, just sounds like a good idea. I thought, okay, good. Good thing I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another observation with people that process auditorily, they can get frustrated when other people don't get it, when people don't understand something. And that's often what they say. Why don't they get it?
Or they'll keep repeating it. Sorry, I'm so excited about this subject. Or they'll keep repeating it until they hear you say, oh, I hear you.
Yeah, that's
and as soon as you say, I hear you, they go, oh, finally, I've said it 10 times.
Yes.
So sometimes you need to tell them, I hear you.
And if they're interrupted, they might start right at the beginning of the story. So best to really be paying attention and listening.
And here's when I love them. Sorry.
What's that?
Here's when I love them, when I need ideas.
Yeah.
Or I need to do a brainstorming. Boy, they can flood the ideas and the stuff that I would never think of. So they have a different creativity than the visuals do. So if you ever need to do a brainstorming exercise, or, listen, if you need to improve anything, they are the folks because they love to improve things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you're speaking to people that are auditory too, make sure your language and your words are clear, because one of my friends says, it just so annoys me when people use sloppy language, when they use sloppy words. So, for example, her husband might say, what would you like for lunch? And she'll say, well, we just had lunch. And he says, well, I mean for dinner. She says, well, then say dinner. So it can get a little bit annoyed. So just make sure your language is clear. Okay, and then here's 3 really short law of attraction auditory scripts. I love hearing the sound of laughter when I tell a delicious story. Or it could be, I love hearing applause when I'm giving a presentation.
I love hearing my new bank account balance.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I would never say that. I would say, I love seeing a bank account. So you can see how we'd translate that sentence to match our own style.
I'm in the process of tuning in to universal abundance.
Everything's clicking for me.
Mm-hmm. I've decided to listen to my inner voice for guidance and support. So these are just really, really very brief introduction to these two styles. I use this assessment with each and every one of my new clients so that I know what language to speak to them in. Mm-hmm. And I just finished making a 4-CD set called NLP Secrets for Better Communication. And it helps people to discover the magic of communicating with ease and flexibility using these styles. And on these CDs, I decided, rather than just hearing my own voice, I decided to interview 4 different people, one from each style. So it makes the listening to it much more interesting and real because you can hear the different speech patterns and their tone, and they've got all 4 of these people have different points of view. They share their frustrations when dealing with the other 3 styles. And we talk about their gifts, their strengths, their challenges, the best team player position, that sort of thing. So the CDs are both entertaining and educational.
So anybody in business that you need to be communicating with people and you need to be in rapport with them fast. In other words, if your client says, "Oh, I see what you mean," and you want to, and you're using feeling words, now you understand what broken rapport is, right? So you'd want to know that really well. I do want to hear from a couple of the auditory folks that got to hear all that delicious stuff about themselves. Could you hear how you really match some of those words and behaviors and sentences, yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. And what did you learn? We're just going to do a quick little recap. What did you learn about your auditory style that you maybe didn't know, but you kind of knew, but now you really know?
We're brainstormers.
You're brainstormers. Okay, great.
I love brainstorming.
Yes, very good. So when someone wants you to be on the project team and wants you to do the bookkeeping, what do you say to that?
No.
No. And if they're looking for an ideas person or someone that can be in charge or something, what would you say to that?
Yes.
Yes. So it's really, like everybody on my team, I make sure, like when my sister Diane would start working for me, I learned right away what she's good at. Details. Okay, so I'm not going to put her on big picture stuff because she loves the details. So in other words, you'd find people in your life or you'd really honor yourself and thinking, I like to do this because I'm auditory. Most of you are probably ferocious readers and editors and proofreaders and find a proofreading mistake in the phone book. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so good. So my point is that understanding all these communication styles is really, really important. Linda did an awesome job teaching it. She does have that 4-CD set. You can visit her website and check that out for those of you that decided you'd like more of that. And tomorrow we are going to work with the last 2 communication styles. That's the kinesthetic style, that's who Linda is, and auditory digital. Again, the terms we're using are from the assessment worksheet at lindarellacoaching.com. That's like Cinderella, but pronounced Lindarella. And I know we're a little bit longer today, and my hunch is we could have done one per day, but we have so much delicious stuff on the plate, we're doubling up a couple things. So ideally, it's still okay for you to join us. If not, you can listen to it online. I'm going to end the recording. I'll come back. If anybody has a technical question about anything, we can handle it there. So let's say goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.